So Jamie, I was thinking about when in the heck did we first meet each other?
That would have been in Charlotte,
What
2019.
year?
I'm thinking.
I
Yeah, it would
feel
have been
like
2019,
yeah,
spring of 2019 in Charlotte, coaching
yeah,
skills camp.
yeah. That was back
Yeah,
in the KW days. I understand that. Yeah,
yeah. We had a random role play.
we did. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
intimidating. It was a lot. Yeah,
it was intimidating. Yeah, because I had a few people that I was starting to get familiar with and comfortable with, and then
and
Diana
then
was
they
like,
moved
"Okay,
us.
yeah, everyone move around and pick someone new," and everyone seemed to have a partner except me and you. So,
We were like, we'll make it happen. Yeah,
and I remember the whole thing was fake, and it was a
yes,
role play. But I remember you actually got me to agree to go door knocking somehow.
yeah. And you were
I was like,
very, yeah, you were very resistant. Yeah,
I didn't want to do that.
yeah.
Anyway, I
Well,
was
that's awesome.
impressed with your role playing abilities.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know in real life it's the same, but role play, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to thank you guys, the Jamie Green team. You guys are, I've coached you guys individually for a little while, and I'm just so impressed with the culture of your team. Like the way you guys vibe with each other, the way the energy that you have with each other. I do coach other teams. I'm not going to say their culture is bad or good, but I definitely think that when I think of a team culture, I think of the Jamie Green team. I really do think, Holly, Jamie, all of you, and even Luke that's on here, I think you guys have a great chemistry together. So I thought the best people to say, hey, how to build a thriving team would be you guys, because I think that you have some wisdom to share. So I'm going to walk through a little bit of just bio stuff at the beginning, just so people know who you guys are and a little bit of the dynamic of your team, and then specific questions on, your strategies of how you built the team, struggles that you went through. And then you guys are in Canada. So here in the US, we chatted a little bit where we have a different perspective of the market. So I think it's always refreshing to get a different take from a different side of the world, so to speak. So you're not that far up, but so Jamie, if you want to kick us off, like how long have you been in real estate? Have you always been a team, or you've been a solo agent before? How did kind of give us a little background on yourself, since you're the official name of the team?
So I started in real estate back in 2011 in my home province, which is the one that's featured above Holly's head there, Newfoundland. I started there on a team.
Oh yeah.
From the beginning, I felt the team, especially as a new individual getting into the business, could really help me. So started on a team there and hung it there for maybe a couple of years. And we then left and eventually got it in my head that I wanted to start another team, except I wanted to kind of do it the way that I wanted to. Me and my business partner, ex business partner, John Pico, who still lives in Newfoundland, we started a team there. We tried under a couple of different brokerages, but eventually we got it off the ground at KW. And after we actually started to find some success there, I started to realize that Newfoundland wasn't really where I wanted to live anymore. So me and Holly took off, moved to Halifax, and we kind of restarted the whole thing over here. Well, I did, and then she got into the business a couple of years later.
And isn't that you
John
guys went
still.
to visit and you just kind of randomly were like, hey, we want to move there? Wasn't it a vacation?
So we had the vacation booked, and before we even came over to visit, we were like, let's move there for good. And so when we came here to visit, the house went on the market. So the house was on the market while we were here visiting to sell. So
Did you know a lot about that area as far as real estate, or you were just like, to hell with it, let's just move?
I didn't know anything. Culturally, we're pretty similar. I think it's about a 2-hour flight to get back home. But I didn't really know anybody. I knew a handful of people, but the weather's better here. It's more accessible. It's cheaper place to live. There's just a lot of benefits. We had a couple of small kids, so it just made sense for us to make the move.
But like, if you think about it, you had an established business on a team for a couple of years, and then you literally moved to a completely 2 hours difference, not knowing anyone, basically had to rebuild your entire business from the ground up, right? Like you didn't have a base of business there.
That's correct. Yeah. So John kept running that team. After I left, I believe they did maybe 225 ends last year, somewhere in that ballpark.
I mean, that's
So
just that's a few
he's
houses.
continued.
Nothing big.
Yeah, he's continued to grow that. And I came here with no connections, no business sources. I had to rely on my existing network back in Newfoundland.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. So, Holly, what did you think about all that when your husband's like, "Hey, we're moving and we are gonna build a different team," and then you kind of got into real estate? Was there a, I would just like a wife's perspective of things, not the business side of you.
So, well, I'm always business.
Oh, is
In
that
Newfoundland, I ran a business in Newfoundland, not in real estate, but still, it was adventure tourism. But there was a lot of things similar between the business that I was running and what Jamie had on the go in real estate with John. So, I was well aware that Jamie knew the ins and outs of creating a team, how to create a business. We do things differently, but he was very successful in his way of building a business in Newfoundland. So coming here, I had a couple cousins, and right off the bat, Jamie used his network from Newfoundland to say, who do you know in Nova Scotia? And actually like spent months just going out for beer and saying, who do you know that I should know? Who do you know that I
Yeah.
should know? It was wild to see it, but I knew that it would all work out because he had already built something just like it in Newfoundland. So I had two small kids. It's windy in Newfoundland. So taking them outside, I was on mat leave. Weather really sucks in Newfoundland, truly.
Yeah.
So I was ready. We went to Halifax in September. We were in shorts and t-shirts the entire time. And I was like, this can work
This is
for
the
me.
life. Yeah.
Yeah. So we left.
David, do you think building a team that the second time taught you anything? Like, would you built it differently? Because I've built two teams. Ironically, I have a similar backstory of I was at a town, built a team, then moved 2 hours away and built another team. I literally did the same thing. And I can tell you that my answer to that is I built the second team better. The first team I built with duct tape, bubble gum, have no freaking clue what I was doing. And then the second one, I was like, all right, I've seen how this could be a little bit more efficient. Do you think you built your second team, this team, more efficiently than the first one?
Yeah. So I mean, the first one, obviously, I had some help with John,
Sure.
who's a good leader, and we had an administrator, we had a couple of agents, and that's when I left. So it wasn't as big as it is right now. It wasn't as big as our team is right now. But absolutely, the second time, you don't need to kind of figure it out as you go so much. I think the analogy that I would use, and maybe not everyone would agree, but if you get in your car and you drive somewhere new, you kind of got to like follow a map or listen to Google Maps or whatever. When you turn around to come back, you're kind of retracing your route. You're familiar with the turns and you're familiar with the sites that you're going to see. And I feel like building a team a second time was kind of similar to that. There were a lot of things that I was familiar with. Now, getting it to this stage, sure, I'm familiar with, but now where to take it from here is I'm trying to figure out what that looks like, because this is as big as it was when I left.
So yeah, so what is what is your team structure? Who's on your team and what is the current like size of your team? Because when you say team, it could be football team, soccer team, or it could be, two people, right? So
yeah, exactly. So currently there is myself, Holly, Michelle, and Luke. We are the agents on the team, and we have Jessica, who is our all-star administrator.
Right.
She was the first person that joined the team. She was that first piece of leverage that I required, because obviously doing that paperwork takes a nice bit of time. And I needed improved systems, which she helped with. And the second hire was then Michelle, who came in with all of her enthusiasm and was able to take all of the excess clients that I had and, well, essentially represent them better than even I could.
Yeah, Jimmy, you even said that when we were kind of chatting before, is like Michelle, she just does such a better job. You're like, part of leverage of a team is having better quality control of your clients. So I think that's an interesting statement that you're like, you actually give your lead your clients to Michelle because she can do a better job. Is that what would you say that?
Yeah, essentially. I think, same as an assembly line works in car manufacturing. I know it's a lot of automation now, but you had the thing that you focused on and you got really good at it. And that's kind of what's happening right now is Jessica has gotten really good at handling the transaction paperwork and that kind of workflow. And Michelle has gotten really good at really like listening to buyers and understanding their needs and getting like really deep with them, better than I ever have. And there might be a bunch of reasons for it. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. If she's better, then she's better.
Yeah. Well, I think I think that as a leader of a team, I think it's good that you allowed that to happen, because I think some leaders, maybe even me included, I'm a control freak. So I'm like, oh, they can't do it better than me. I did it so great. I remember hiring my admin that I've had for a long time, 7 years now. I always thought I did something better, and then she's made it way better than I could have done. So do you think that that's natural for you to be able to let go of that control, or is that something you had to work through?
I think I'm really fortunate in the way that I'm not a control freak at all.
Yeah.
If I can find someone who can do the job,
Do it.
I read a thing, I don't know where even where I read it. I wish I could reference it, but it was, if they can do 80% as good as you, give it to them. And Michelle got there very quickly and then exceeded it. And now it's 120% of what I could do.
So do you think that was something that if you're starting a team and you're the leader or you're a solo agent, do you think is that a hiccup for people, or is that a challenge? If you're a control freak, starting a team might be a little, because it sounds like that's a natural thing for you to just let go of things. But a lot of personalities in real estate are dominant personalities. They're, so that's a unique little twist, I think. Do you think that's significant in building a successful team?
So I guess the necessary first step in overcoming that challenge is actually finding someone that you can have trust in. Yeah, someone that's good. Which, that's the hard part, because we get to that pain point where we're like, I need someone to take this job from me right now. And we end up hiring someone really quickly. And it really needs to be the opposite of that. Take your time and find someone. I got really lucky with Michelle. She just kind of dropped out of the sky. Obviously I knew her before, but I didn't know she was going to get into real estate. And then when she got into real estate, everything just really kind of fell into place. When it come to Jessica, I was looking for an administrator for a very long time before me and Jessica actually found each other, and she started working for me.
So you didn't hire very quickly. So you're saying your advice is like, don't hire just out of necessity or out of desperation. Wait for the right person, is what you're saying.
Yeah. So I guess what my advice would be is, if you are an agent, in a single agent, and you do 100% of the work, my advice would be, if you're interested in starting a team sometime, then to start looking for an administrator now.
It's going to take months. It's going to take time to weed through it.
So yeah, and I guess it's really kind of a mindset thing that people need to, because the objections that I constantly get when I'm talking to people about hiring administrators is, well, I can't afford one, or I can't keep them busy, or, I don't have enough money in the bank, or there's not enough sales coming in. It's free to look for an administrator. You can look for an administrator for 2 years, and eventually you'll find one. You will get better at looking for them. You will get better at vetting them and interviewing them. And eventually you're going to find someone that you can't afford to not hire. So just start looking now. Maybe you'll find one really quick, and then you're going to have to really figure out how to make that work. But otherwise, it might take you a while. So start looking now. It's free. Yeah.
No, I think that's huge advice, because I think we hire out of desperation, and then we train this person and they're not great. And then that's why I honestly see people not creating teams. Like, oh, teams don't work. It's too stressful. It's too hard. Well, because you're using like this shotgun approach. You're just like, I need an admin now. I hired my mom's sister's cousin randomly. And then, they're not a good fit, but you hired out of desperation. So I like that you bring that up, because I think it's quote, is it a team? Is it, so it's you, it's your admin. Okay. That technically, I guess, is a team, but you always said, and we've talked about this before, admin is your first hire. Like I've literally coached teams where they have 4 buyer's agents and they have no admin help. And I'm like, no offense, but why are they on the team with you? You're not giving them any leverage. You're just 4 salespeople wandering in the desert together. So your advice is to hire admin first, right? Before you bring on the Michelles and the Hollies and is that your recommendation?
Yeah, I have a really hard time categorizing a group of agents without an administrator as an actual team. That you're just 4 people that are doing 100% of the job. Yeah. There's no cohesion. There's no culture. I don't want to offend anybody in saying these things, but it's a very difficult way. What is the value proposition of this team? Like
especially
how
with the split,
is
if you're giving whatever the split percentage is, so you got 4 people are salespeople and you're all equally splitting whatever your percentage of split is, what is it really going to? Like it's going to the leader, but he or she's not actually providing value, so I do think that's very common in our industry, and I don't know why. It's like opening a restaurant but forgetting to hire a cook first. Like what? How does this work? So
yeah, I think a lot of people look at the administrator as an expense,
right.
And it's truly the best investment that you can make into your business. But
Yep.
it's money that's coming out of your bank account, and it's coming out whether or not you put money in there. So I think it increases the stress. I think a lot of people have trouble, coming to terms with that. Whereas hiring an agent, that should increase the revenue. So I got an option here to increase my revenue, or I got an option here to incur an expense. I can see why people would think that.
Yeah, but it's funny you say that because I think it's interesting. Like Michelle, as amazing as she is, she's an expense because whatever your percentage is, you're giving her a percentage of the commission. So it's funny how in admin world, we consider that an expense because they're hourly or salary, but salespeople, they don't consider that an expense. That's actually higher percentage of expense than your admin. If you look at the math, that revenue is going out. So as great as that salesperson is, 40, 50, 60, whatever the percentages is going out the door. So I think it's such an interesting little twist in people's perspective of how to build a team.
So, and I don't want to make any generalizations here, obviously, but I think the same people that would not hire an administrator, maybe the same people that really would take all of their leads and their referrals and their sphere and database related business and go and service it themselves.
Keep it to themselves, yeah.
And then the Michelles or the Lukes or the Hollies come on board, and they are actually a source of revenue because they are drumming up their business.
Yeah.
The problem in this situation becomes retention, in my opinion, and I don't think you're setting the team up for the growth that it should be having.
Well, and that's a good point. We were talking earlier, like what are the negative experiences with the team? And I think that's one of them. It's not giving up that, not sharing those leads and not all, benefiting together. So I think that's a good point. What you were just saying is like, if you're a solo agent, you have all these leads and you're not willing to kind of spread the love and multiply effect, your team won't grow. I mean, it just won't. So I think that's important too. So
yeah.
So what are your primary lead sources that your team focuses on? I always think it's interesting.
We focus pretty well exclusively on our database. Our database, that would include like all of our past clients, our sphere of influence, allied resources, mortgage brokers, home inspectors, all of these people that would send us referrals.
Right.
That would account for probably 85% of our business. Last year it was 85%. This also includes like agent referrals that come from inside our market or outside our market.
Yeah.
Because we do get referrals from agents within our market.
I think agents forget that lead source. That's a good lead source. I mean, it's the warmest one. They have buyers and sellers everywhere. So
yeah.
But didn't you have maybe I don't remember this correctly, but didn't you use internet leads for a period of time? Didn't you have internet leads that you paid for?
We still have internet leads. They come in at quite a high volume, but we are becoming ever more careful about who we're dealing with from the internet. They can be a giant waste of time. It can be a really big distraction from the nurturing of our database. So our primary source would be database, and the whole purpose of our internet leads, and this was kind of my mindset towards it when I signed up for it, was to grow my database.
Right.
So the people that I communicate with that come in through our website, my goal is to nurture them and kind of see if they're a fit for who we want to deal with. I know it was only yesterday that Michelle was dealing with someone, and we just determined that they are not a fit to work with
Or
us.
you? Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you see? I see a lot of teams are heavy lead generation on internet leads. So you said 85% of the Jamie Green team is prospecting based. I mean, is database based, not lead generation with internet leads. I see a huge. There's large teams that I coach that are even in our marketplace that spend a lot of money on internet leads. Do you think that's? I'm putting on the hot seat. Do you think that's the wrong move? Because I see it's almost like a factory mentality. Like they have certain calls, they have to pick it up within 2 hours. I mean, they're spending 15, 20, 30,000 on internet leads. So when their team gets all those leads, they have to convert them or that money is lost. You know what I mean? So do you think that's the wrong move, or what do you think? Because that's like almost flipped from what your business model is.
So I obviously I can't say that that's the wrong move. We have a lot of conversations on our team about work, life, balance, and what we have found is even if we get in front of a lot of these internet leads, and even if we show them a bunch of houses, the conversion of them still remains extremely low. And I mean, that's not too big of a problem if you got a lot of internet leads and then one pops out and they buy a house. But a lot pop out and we get to the appointment stage and we get to the showing stage and then they still don't cross the finish line. So then they become very heavy on the time. And we talk about leverage a lot. We talk about going out and servicing your ideal client. And then if you've done that and you've spent the time that you need, kind of working with your database and nurturing your database, spend the rest of your time going to the beach, lie down and have a nap on the couch. Any of these things are better spent than spending time with people who actually have no intention or will never really buy a house.
Michelle, can I get you to unmute? Can you answer that? You have internet leads, and obviously you're relationship based. If you were on the team and it was heavy internet lead based, do you think you'd have the same quality of life? Do you think the same culture on the team would be the same? Like if it was heavy internet based?
I think no. I think that we're all about interpersonal relationships, and if we didn't get to work with those people that already know and trust us, then we would be missing out on a big portion of our career that's really, really rewarding. I like to think I treat every client as if they're my sister or brother, but when there's an emotional component because you already know them or they're a referral from someone else, then it makes it that much more rewarding in the end. Yeah.
So
and
you think if the team was heavy internet based, you probably wouldn't be as successful on the team?
Maybe I'd be successful, but maybe not as fulfilled.
Happy, yeah. There we go. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think that's the last 2 years have been rough. Like just the market, at least in the US, I know in Canada, you've been working a lot of hours, writing so many offers and working through the limited inventory. I think at least you're doing it for people that you like, trust, enjoy, versus sometimes internet leads, they're grumpy and they're mean sometimes. So sometimes you have to pick your bucket of people, and I would rather people be nice and friendly than mean and grumpy. So I just thought that was an interesting. 85% of your business comes from your database, and your whole team is bought into that. I think that's a significant, when we're talking about how to build a thriving team, I think that's an ingredient that some teams need to look at is where's the percentage of our business lead sources? Is it making us happy? Is it making us fulfilled? Because it's great to make money, but if you're miserable and don't like the transactions you're in, I think that doesn't make for a happy life. So, Holly, anything you add on that? Do you feel like that's a good synopsis of your lead sources and kind of the vibe of your team overall?
Yeah, so I love internet leads only because I
Oh my
love talking
God,
to
that's
strangers.
amazing. That's so freaking amazing. I love it so much.
So
So
but
this
it
is
is
still
super
good.
distracting.
So tell me why you love them. I love it so much.
One of my favorite parts about being in this business is learning everybody's story. So
I do love it.
I
I
love
love the
helping
origin
people.
story. Yeah.
I love fixing problems. I love a challenge. So when someone calls me and says, I make
Yeah.
really good money, I'm working on my credit, I got this big old chunk of fudge to go towards the down payment, but apparently I can't get pre-approved, then I'm like,
I got
you.
Yeah.
Let's make this happen. Let's make a plan. We have a mortgage broker who I harass all the
All
time.
the time.
He may blacklist me after yesterday's client, but anyway.
Don't
So
get
I
over it.
love internet leads because I'm learning
You like
all
the
these
challenge.
people's
Yeah.
story. And I do love a challenge. I'm a high D personality. I love door knocking. I love cold calling. So personally, for me, I would love if all of my business was not all of my business, but if lots of my business came from strangers, that would be pretty cool. But recognizing the return on investment of time, even if you don't even look at the dollar value, is low. The return is low when you look at your dollar per hour that you spend.
But I think that's a good point. I think sometimes it's also your personality. It's just like your adrenaline. Like if you get jacked up excited because you can overcome this jerk on the phone, because I've done internet leads and I do. My high D is the same way. I'm like, dude, I got this dude. He's a jerk, but I'm gonna convert him, So there is like conquering that mountain of like that adrenaline. You're like, I'm like, I got this dude. Even though it's complete jerk. Because they warm up and they actually aren't jerks. It's just that knee-jerk instant reaction. Humans are usually generally nice people, but they put that wall up. So I think I love that, Holly. That's a great perspective. I think that also shows, like Jamie said, you're building the database. So it's kind of so the answer is it really depends, right? 85% of your business comes from your database, but if you went through that 85%, some of those did come from internet leads that you've now nurtured and built relationships with. So that's
possibly, yeah. And I find there's so much to internet leads. So your database and your sphere is typically people that same sort of culture, same sort of understanding of business. But internet leads, they can be from anywhere. So then you're dealing with all these different personalities with all these different expectations, and you kind of got to mold slightly how you do things, because maybe they're from a different country and they feel disrespected by something that's maybe completely standard here in Canada. So I find there's just I just love learning about other people, but it also may be why there's more of an investment of time to get these people to convert, because you're not familiar with how they do business.
So I find it interesting. So how do you think you obviously got into business? And I don't know if you probably didn't. I mean, Jamie wasn't heavy internet leads. So you guys like, hey, I'm going to start doing internet leads. How did you feel like you taught yourself, or how did you work on converting leads on internet wise? Because you sound like you really get in there and dig into kind of overcoming objections. How did you learn how to do that?
A lot of script practice.
Interesting.
A lot of objection handling, audio clips.
Yeah,
there was a lot of that. And ultimately volume cold calling. Like I had a lot of nasty phone calls, and I get off the phone and the feeling in your stomach where you're like, damn, I didn't quite do that good enough. So then I just dial again, hours. I used to cold call like 20 hours.
Jamie's shaking his head. I love it so much.
Jamie would have to leave.
I love that you both are married to each other and that you have a team together and you have it's the yin and yang. It's like two sides of the coin. I think it's super great.
But Jamie has an excellent point, and I think this is why we work so well together, is because, and I think why a lot of teams are so focused on that shiny internet lead, The one that is, they're coming in hot. So many phone numbers. You're just getting phone numbers. You're not searching databases. You're getting all these phone numbers for people, and email addresses, and you have their full name, and you're just going to call them and spend all of your hours doing that. But if everyone is actually tracking their business, so look at, and I talked to a lot more agents than I ever did. And I find when you ask people, where did your business come from last year?
They have
They're
no
like,
idea.
oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
So like if they did track
Which
it,
drives me insane, but yes.
but if they did, they would probably also see that the majority of their business came from a sphere and database that they aren't even nurturing.
Right. Yeah.
So like think of the opportunity that's left on the table.
Yeah.
So
that's so
and
good.
with faster conversion rates and less, you pay way less money for people that you've already know.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah.
Well, that threw me off, but I love it. I love
Yeah,
it.
that was
That's
a lot.
amazing. That's so good. All right, good. So I want to talk about the negatives of a team, because you guys talked about all the good stuff, talked about culture, but let's keep it real. Life is not always rainbows and sunshine. So we can just talk about a general team. You don't have to talk about one you've been on or not on, or people that you've seen in your marketplace. But Jamie, what do you think some negatives of a team? If I'm a solo agent, or if I was on a team, what has your been experience on some negative things that really need to be busted wide open and us talk about, like, that we need to avoid or do at all costs try to manage? What are some negatives of a team? Being honest.
I mean, if done correctly, I feel like there really aren't too many. Obviously, you got different people. Yeah, maybe Holly and Michelle might have lots of stuff. Maybe I should go for this one.
What do you? I mean,
what
do you think? Honestly, you've experienced teams, other teams, and you've seen other teams in your other brokerages. You're like, oh, I don't want to be on that team, or ooh, that wouldn't have been a good fit for me. Like, what do you think are some of the things that, because you have a thriving team, so obviously you're avoiding something and doing something correctly, right? So what are you not wanting? What are pitfalls that you don't want to fall into, I guess?
So obviously I'm going to be super biased about myself, but
Sure.
and it's called the Jamie Green team. So I might seem like a bit of an ass here. But I don't look at this for myself. When I first set out to build a team, it was for my leverage. It was to improve my dollar per hour and to grow something. But it has grown into something more than that. And now I look at, well, how can I improve Michelle's life or Jessica's life? And as a group of people, we kind of collaborate in that kind of way, and we all talk about dollar per hour. And go back to the internet lead thing, we know the lead sources that take the most time. We know the lead sources that convert quicker and have a higher dollar per hour value. So that's kind of where we think of things.
But what you said was you guys talk about that a lot. And I think that's a key point. Like, you guys talk to each other. I have been in teams and coach teams, but they don't communicate with each other at all. Like, they maybe do one team meeting a week, and they're really kind of all scattered. So maybe that is, if you're not good at communicating and connecting with each other, maybe that's a negative of the team. I'm going to force you to.
Yeah. I mean, there could be a lot of negatives with a lot of teams.
And what are they, Jamie?
So, I mean, you just see teams being built for wrong reasons, in my opinion.
What are the wrong reasons?
And some people
they are.
I think anyone who would build a team for their own, like, to really blow up their own bank account or for egotistical reasons.
Their ego. Hence,
yeah,
why most people use their name as the team. It's not the best real estate team in the world. It's usually their name, right? So it's usually ego based. Is that not true?
I tried a lot of different team names with my last broker, and I had some really incredible conversations with her, and she's like, nope, you can't use that name. Nope, you can't use that name. She's like, why don't you just call it the Jamie Green team? And I'm like, I really don't want to call it the Jamie Green team. And then she said, well, everyone knows who you are. Like, the brand has already started. So
and it's not
why
a
don't you
hard
just
name.
call it that?
Green is pretty easy.
And it's pretty easy. So that's why it's called that. It's not because it's not an egotistical thing. It isn't. Although it becomes more recognizable. And as a result, everyone on the team becomes more recognizable. Michelle has helped us create a really good brand. But
And
we're
your
all working
signs look
together on
good,
that.
by the way. Your new black EXP signs, sexy, very sexy. Love them.
They are very nice. Yeah, I
They're very
really like our signs.
I do like them. Just saying.
Yeah.
So okay, so Holly, what other negatives you think you see in the marketplace of teams?
So people I've chatted with, definitely that, okay. Yeah, this is really hard. So we have a really unique team structure. We're not
Yes, I know.
just,
That's why I want to
Um,
see that. I think there's, like I said, there's two sides of the coin. Like you guys have a thriving team, but it's almost in reverse of a lot of teams that I see coach train in the marketplace. So it's interesting why your team is thriving is probably also the reason why those are not thriving.
right. So we try and like avoid the call center version of a
approach.
team.
Okay.
So cold leads are coming in. I don't have time to talk to them. Who's free? Pick up your phone in 30 minutes or, you know,
Right.
no one talks to this person. We really try and qualify leads before we ask our agents if they would like to work with them. I think that's different.
Okay.
We
agree
try
with that.
to really avoid them chasing
So-
around. So maintaining their dollar per hour. They're excellent showing homes, selling homes, negotiating, getting leads from their database. Why also have them chasing around random people who may not be pre-approved? They don't have a down payment. They're really never going to buy a house. So we try really to avoid having a call center version of a team, which I know there's lots here that are like that, which may
Well, the
seem
thing-
really attractive because they're getting leads.
Yeah,
Leads.
it sounds you're busy. So I think as a team, you're in that environment, you feel productive.
Totally.
So that could be the negative of the team is you might feel like you're on a team that's pumping out a ton of leads and you're calling a lot of people and you're having a lot of appointments. And then you look down at your bank account and you're like, crap, I did not convert any of these. Right. So
Right.
I think that's
It's
definitely
really important.
negative of a team if they don't understand dollar per hour is so huge to keep saying that because internet leads, whatever the lead source is, it's fine. But if it doesn't convert, we got to move on to something that's more productive. So, Jamie, what were you saying?
Absolutely.
I was going to say, don't confuse busyness with productivity. Michelle has built a very successful business within our business using her very extensive database. So if we have a lead, obviously my sphere referrals, they will go to her or go to Luke. If we have anyone to come in that comes through our website, they are highly qualified and sent to Michelle because they have to, because as soon as Holly picks up the phone to call Michelle, Michelle's going to be like, where'd they come from? What are they doing? Why are they moving? How much money they got to spend? Are they pre-qualified? Where are they pre-qualified to? And she's just going to hammer you with questions. And Holly has gotten used to asking the questions so that when she calls Michelle, Michelle knows that, okay, I can get in my car and go and meet this person, or I can decide I don't want to deal with that person. I'm going to stay home. Michelle doesn't get internet leads to her phone. We make sure that we have done as much work.
Yeah. Well, so I think that's another negative of a team is if you're just pushing it around, you're wasting everyone's time. So I think it's
Right.
at a certain point, it's actually you respect each other. Like you respect each other's time, you respect each other's skills. So I think that's important. So all right. So I think
I have
that's
one more.
yeah.
So because I recognize this. So Jamie's thing, he owns the team is the name of the team. I mean, he does own the team. It's not in quotations. He actually does. But
I know how the house works. I understand.
he's not doing all the transactions. And I think that that's huge. So he has time to help us through our issues and teach us how to service clients appropriately. So if Jamie was doing 25, 50, 100 transactions, which a lot of team owners, team leaders are doing, who has time to actually be coaching
educate.
and mentoring other agents to build their business that
So
way?
huge. So I think, yeah, so that's a negative. So if you are leading your team, but your head down is down in the trenches doing all the activities, how you expect it to ever grow. So I think I love that. So I think
That
if
was an
you own
important
a
one.
team or are a part of that, your first reaction needs to be you as the leader need to pull away from sales.
Totally.
So that was one of the first conversations that I had with Michelle. And Michelle comes with so much enthusiasm for showing houses, helping buyers and sellers do their transaction. But one of my first conversations with her was, "Are you going to be okay outproducing me?" Because that is the goal. The goal is for you to sell more houses than me. And Luke, it's the same thing, same conversation with Luke. And they're like, "Yeah, why wouldn't I have a problem with that?" And I don't know if that's something that anyone really has a problem with, but when the team leader is not really selling that many houses, maybe the optics aren't that good. Maybe someone has a problem with that, but it had to be okay because essentially I will still nurture my database at the same level that I always did. But if anything, if I shake that tree and something falls out of it, I'm going to hand it over to Luke or Michelle.
Well, I think that's huge. You have to keep growing the team, but necessarily it doesn't have to be growing it by leads. It's growing it by education, resources, systems. So it's still growing. You're not on permanent vacation and the team's doing all the work. You're growing in different ways, whether it's literally sitting and reading a book or going to a seminar or interacting with your coach. Like, you're growing and then you bring it back to the team and let's implement this. So I think that's a huge negative of teams, is if the main person that was the original solo agent suddenly goes, I still have to sell 100 houses a year. I don't know that you can scale, honestly, to keep doing that, because you're literally going to have 2 full-time jobs, selling 100 houses and, oh, by the way, growing and building a team. That's 2 full-time jobs. So I think that's a pivotal point of some negatives of a team if you don't have that mindset of letting go of that. So one of the things that we were talking about before was, you guys are in Canada, and I want to talk about the market a little bit, and then we'll kind of end with some advice for solo agents. But you guys obviously went through the pandemic with us, just like we are, and actually it hit you guys pretty hard as well. So how have you guys weathered the storm through that? So go back 2 years ago, pandemic. How did you guys, you guys locked down, like no one was on the streets, like it was, and you guys you weren't essential, right? So you literally didn't even sell real estate, or did you continue to sell real estate during the pandemic?
We did continue to sell real estate. But I think for the most part with this question, I'm going to hand this over to Holly and Michelle. In Nova Scotia, I think Michelle was the last one to write in the last exam that was written pre-pandemic. So she started right in the beginning of the pandemic, and Holly wrote her license. I think she was one of the first ones to write her license after they opened up, started doing licensing again. So
Michelle, you literally got your license in the pandemic. Like, you were like, yeah, I'm excited. I have my real estate license. Oh shit, now the world's coming to an end.
Yeah, it was like weeks away from one another from when I got my license and when.
But you still had an amazing year. So how did you even tackle that, learning a new industry, and then, oh, by the way, learning how to survive, thrive in a shutdown pandemic? How did that happen in your approach to your business?
I think it actually gave us a really cool opportunity to be some of the only people that our clients saw. So we were able to create some really cool relationships with our clients because they weren't allowed to see anybody else, but they could see us with a mask
Like
on.
an
My
exclusive.
clients,
They weren't dating anyone else. They were only dating you.
it was only us. Some of their children had only met me for the first few months of their life. So
Yeah.
that was really, really cool. Again, the pandemic was all that we knew. So Holly and I jumped feet first and we studied the market and we had a lot of conversations with a lot of different people. And we were able to thrive because we just did it in spite of what had been going on. I think that Jamie taught us the things that we had to do to be successful. So even though the world was in shambles, we were able to take that approach and really show people that we cared about them and create relationships at a time when people needed them more than ever. They were more isolated than they ever had been. So I think it was, although a challenging time to get into real estate, a really cool time to be able to solidify the relationships that we already had in our lives.
I think that's a good point, because I hope we don't forget this, because 2 years down the road, sometimes we forget the past and history. But I think what you said was, I've always said real estate is a human business, not a housing business. Like we are in the human business. It's about communicating and nurturing and connecting with people, talking about our kids, talking about our puppies, talking about our family. Like, oh yeah, by the way, you need to buy and sell a house, but it's more than that. And I love that you guys leaned into the fact that pandemic, you start with having conversations. How are you feeling? I mean, we were joking, we would drop off toilet paper because we had like no toilet paper. It was a weird thing. And like, how weird is it that I'm dropping off toilet paper at someone's house? But diapers, we were dropping off random stuff all the time. And that's really what we should keep doing. It's just funny how we're coming out of pandemic. And I'm a little concerned, like what was working and what you guys, hopefully you guys continue to do is it's about the relationship. So now that the pandemic's kind of transitioning out, what is the Canadian market doing? What are you guys seeing in Canada? How is that? I know your inventory was in. I was literally telling a team, and someone's on the yesterday. I was like, US, we complain all the time about inventory, and then you look at Canada, we just all need to shut up because you guys have no houses compared to us. Has it gotten better, or is it still just 4 houses and everybody's fighting over the same ones? Jamie, you want to take that? What do you think the Canada market's looking like right now?
Yeah, so it has improved. We do have more homes. In January, we are a city of almost 500,000. In January, we had 180 houses on the market, which
Wow,
is not enough. We're up to 500 now, but we need to be in the 1,500, 2,000 to just be scraping the bottom of balanced market.
right.
So we do inventory a little bit different than you guys in the States. We have a little buffer area where we call it balanced market. It's like 4 to 8 months of inventory, but we're down into weeks of inventory here. But it has been improving. I don't know if it's going to be sustained. We're obviously in the months where we list the most houses in our area. So I don't know if we're going to stick with that or not.
What do you think the reason why there's more inventory is? Just seasonality, or is it finally people are pandemic has shaken off with seasonality? Yeah,
it's definitely seasonality is definitely a factor. Maybe cost of living, maybe interest rates may also be a factor. I don't know which would be the dominant factor because we're definitely in the months where we see most of the homes hit the market in our local area. I guess we'll see if this continues. If it continues into July and August, then it may be more interest rate and cost of living. But right now, I would think the dominant factor would be seasonality.
okay. And then you guys watch the US market because you said we're different. You almost like watch us to see what potentially is going to impact you, because do you guys usually feel the market first? Or do you think the US does? We trail you or you trail us as far as trends overall in real estate?
I would think that we kind of trail you guys.
That's what I've always thought. So we hit the iceberg and then you feel like, oh crap, the iceberg's coming for us next, right?
Yeah. So I guess if you were to use the housing crisis or the Great Recession in 2008, whenever that was, you guys you got hit hard by that. And everyone in Canada was like, whoa, okay, we need to make some changes. And we quickly made some changes and avoided the crap that you guys had to go through.
Yeah.
There was still a bit of a feeling of it here, but nothing like with
we make the mistake and you guys learn from it, essentially.
Quickly, quickly. Yeah.
Do you think that
we appreciate that?
That's yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, we screw up and we fall on our face, and then you're like, oh, let's not do that.
You're like the older child in the family.
Exactly. One of the trends right now in real estate here is our interest rates. So our interest rates were 2.5%, 3%. And now they're creeping up to 5% on loans. And our buyers are freaking out. They think that the sky is falling, the interest rates are crazy. I don't know what your interest rates are. But for us, I think that's so fascinating because if you use a credit card or your car payment, the interest rate on those are usually higher than 5%. So we're complaining about we can't buy a house because it went from 2.5% to 5%. When you have no problem swiping your credit card to pay for gas or to buy a new Mercedes, but you don't want to buy an investment that's actually increasing. And so how do you guys overcome that in your marketplace? Like Holly, you're great at overcoming objections. Like when they're talking about interest rates, they're talking about, oh, maybe it's not the time to buy because prices are so high. Like, what is the Canadian response to that?
So it's exactly what you said. Do you want to buy an asset that's going to increase in value? You know, the best time to buy a house was 5 years ago.
Mhm.
So that's kind of just when people get all, I don't know, caught up in interest rates and what's happening today. Buying a house is not about what's happening today.
Right.
So really try and like future pace is how I overcome that objection.
Dude, I
And
love
just say, you know,
Yeah.
X amount of dollars you'll spend on rent this year and have nothing. Let's look at what you'll spend if you bought a house in interest.
Yeah.
Far of a lot less, and you're paying down your own mortgage. So when you look at it in big pictures, it's pretty easy to overcome that objection.
Yeah, I agree. I think us as agents, we have to keep communicating that though, because we can't rely on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram to tell the message or the news, because they're usually 6 months behind what's reality is happening. So that's why we're big on videos. Holly, I know you do a lot of video. I like, sit in your car and literally tell how the market's doing. Like, it doesn't have to be Hollywood behind you. It needs to be real. Like, this is what's really happening. So I think you guys do a great job of communicating what the market really is versus this like story or this imaginary. It's scarcity, unfortunately. So what do you think your prediction for the end of the year? We're basically at the halfway point of the year. What do you guys think it's going to be about the same? Do you think it's going to come crashing down? What do you think is going to, what's your crystal ball approach, which I know it doesn't exist, but what do you think it looks like going into the start of next year even? Jamie, what do you think?
I'm feeling optimistic about this. I don't know what you guys are doing for interest rates, but up here in Canada, we have a benchmark rate, which means that if you buy a home, if it's at 2.5%, you're still getting qualified at 5.5%. So
we do not do
before
that.
The bank gives you,
we would. I think that would buffer us a lot better. Americans.
So if I buy a home and my home is 2.5% variable, the bank's not going to give it to me unless they're certain that I can afford it. If the interest rates go up to 5.5 over the course of the next 5 years, so I don't think you're going to see. Obviously, affordability is a question with the price of everything else going up. Then maybe people can't afford their homes anymore. But that's personal decisions that can be made within their budget, usually according to the bank and the bank's confidence in your ability to pay it.
Yeah, we feel exactly the same way. We don't have a variable interest rate. We have a fixed interest rate here, which you think is a good thing, but it then creates this barrier of, it's already, I'm going to wait. It'll get lower. It'll get. So I think Canada is doing correct where you have variable with a ceiling. But I think our biggest challenge is inflation, like insane groceries and gas and just cost of living, right? So it's not even the housing prices or the loan, it's the cost to go to dinner, the cost to go to the grocery store has gotten so crazy here. Do you guys have the same inflation challenges in your market? Yeah. And which is, it affects that percentage to buy, because if 70% of my money has to go to survive and live and eat and entertain myself, then I don't know that I'm going to buy. So I think that's overcoming that objection is a little tricky. So good. Well, the last thing I want to talk about is advice for solo agents. So we talked pretty much the whole time about the benefits of a team, negatives of a team, even though I had to squeak out as much as I could with the negatives, and all that stuff. If I'm like a solo agent, I don't want to be on a team. I hear everything you just said, but I don't care. I don't want to be on a team. What is your advice to a solo agent that's in this market? What are some 2 or 3 things that you're like, if you are not on a team, you must do XYZ? What do you think that would be?
So, I mean, for a solo agent, to me, there's a very finite amount of business that you can handle without potentially either doing a bad job or making a mistake or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think depending on how you define team, and maybe this goes outside of solo agent, if you're really good at generating leads, if you're really good at being a real estate agent, typically, as I see with different personality types, some administrative help would probably go a long way. And that may not be a hire. That may not be the way that things have kind of changed through this pandemic. Virtual people are now very common. So if you're open to it, I would say as a solo agent, have an open mind to even just a virtual assistant.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's great advice, because we talk about building systems, use technology, and then hire people. That's how we always tell to build as a solo agent. You don't create a team until you have the systems in place. Now, do they get better when you hire admin and they kind of give them a little facelift? Yes, but you need to have systems, you need to use some technology to get some stuff automated, and then you hire people. So I think as a solo agent, I think TC, transaction coordinating, that's the easiest thing to farm out.
Yep.
You should not be doing your own paperwork. It drives me crazy as a solo agent. They're like, oh, I'm up till midnight doing my paperwork. What in the hell are you doing? It's like $200 to get somebody else to do that for you, right? So your first advice as a solo agent is find leverage, even if it's at the minimal level, whether it's marketing person, social media person, or transaction coordinator. Like, you should definitely be open-minded to that. All right, what else? What else do you think they need to, as a solo agent, they need to really hone in on?
Yeah, so I mean, leads is obviously going to be your number one thing. So you got to identify those lead sources. Anything that's important to you in your business, whether that's money or time or whatever, develop a system around tracking it. If you want to have more money, track your money, track your expenses. If you want to make more sales, track your sales and where they're coming from. A very simple spreadsheet for tracking, just like a Google Sheet. Google Sheet is free. Develop a spreadsheet and track that stuff.
Even
if you
track
want to
your
improve
time.
it.
If it's your time, use a calendar and actually look at where you're spending your time. I'm a weirdo about my calendar. I color code it to be like, and I have my assistant tell me where my time is. It's like, all right, you spent 26 hours on personal time, 13 hours on training. Like, I'm a weirdo about my time. Ironically, more than my money, because it's funny how where you focus your time, your money attracts to that. So anyway, so I love that. So track. So second is track, spreadsheets, numbers, lead sources, time. I cannot say that enough. So agents, they're just running on a hamster wheel or that treadmill, and they don't pause for 5 minutes to track that stuff. So I think that's huge advice. So what would be your final one if you were a solo agent in this marketplace? What do you think you have to do to thrive in real estate in this market?
You need to think about who you want to become. And I think taking some time for yourself. I have my journal with me here. I write things in that always. Just having a little bit of time to let your brain kind of move around and come up with ideas. It's very easy, especially as a solo agent, to get really bogged down with the tasks and the things that you have to do. You wake up, you pick up your phone, you start going, and you're going until it's time to go to bed. Where is that design time? Where is that time where you can reflect, think about how you can make improvements in your business? If you're a solo agent, systems are extremely important. So make sure that you're blocking some time where you can actually put some thought into those things.
Yeah, I call it white space, like where you're like, there's nothing planned, like you can just sit down with your own thoughts, a cup of coffee, whiskey, whatever it is, and just beer, and just get through. Okay, there's a difference between survive and thrive. And I love that you said that, because I think most solo agents, if we're honest, they're surviving. They're waking up, they're on the treadmill, they're doing the best they can, they're amazing people, but they're just surviving. And I think the difference of thriving is pausing for that moment, which I think is good. What's 1 year? What's 3 years? What's 5 years? What does that plan look like? Even if you don't know what the plan is, like, what do you think it'll look like? And then I love that you said leverage, and I love that you said systems. So those are big things. Good. Well, I think that's everything. There was so many things to talk about, but I know we're out of time, and I know you guys are busy people. Is there any last thoughts, Holly, Michelle? What would you say? Final thoughts on thriving as a team? Is there anything that we left out that you think that is important for us to hear before we hop off?
I'd say never discount the value of, relationships. So solo
Does
agent,
the
we're on
internet
a
need,
team,
I love that. No, just
right?
yeah, relationships within your team and your database. Yeah.
But even other agents. So if you're a solo agent, and you're hustling it out on the treadmill, on the hamster wheel, just going. How are you learning new things? Where are you getting other perspectives? Who's challenging you on your actual business, not on your specific transactions, because your clients will challenge the crap out of you there. But, like, who are you aligning yourself with, even if you're a solo agent, who can help you become a better realtor, live a better, bigger life? I think those relationships are so, so important. And then also, if you want to take a week, then at least you have someone who trust, can watch your business so that you can have that downtime, because you need that. This business is hard. Yeah.
It is. And I think that's a good point, because I have a lot of agents with different brokerages. I'm not saying one brokerage is better than the other because I'm Switzerland, but neutral with that. But I would say there's brokerages that are very agent centric and very community based and want to help. So if you're a solo agent, it already is hard enough. You feel like you're like on an island by yourself anyway. You need to be aligned with a brokerage or two or three agents in different markets where you can feel like you can have at least, even just to call and bitch about your day. Like sometimes you just need to vent and complain, and not that it's going to fix anything, but you need to get it off. It's like therapy, right? So I definitely think building a community of people, whether it's in your brokerage or finding your tribe, is what I always, Seth Godin has a book that I love. It's called Tribes, where you just build this community of people. So I think that's huge. Relationships. Michelle, what about you? Anything you'd add to thrive in this market?
Yeah, I kind of echo what Holly said about relationships. No one teaches you how to be a real estate agent. You do the course that teaches you all about the people that regulate the industry, but it doesn't teach you about the day-to-day. So really important to be open-minded and meet with other agents. Like Holly said, someday you're going to want to go on vacation and leave your clients in the hands of someone that you can trust. And you also want to just talk with other agents. It helps represent your clients better. It helps you get an idea of some of their strategies. Maybe they'll share some of their secrets with you. And just to surround yourself with different types of people. I think that's another reason why our team has been so successful, that we're all different in different ways. We are like-minded enough on a foundational base that we all have similar values, but we're all very different, and we are nurtured to enhance that and nurtured to really believe that it's okay, that everybody fits in on this team. If your base level is similar to ours and you want to help people, then there's space here for you, no matter how you like to do your business. If you like to door knock, or if you like to work on your sphere, which is another thing with teams, that it's important to have a dynamic team and not just a whole bunch of the same person. You're not really going to learn and evolve.
Good point. I've learned very quickly I shouldn't hire more of myself. I am enough for one person, let alone a house full of people. So if I had 10 extra Drews running around, the world might not go as well as we expect. So yeah, hire diversity, hire people that challenge you to think, I think is a huge part of that. So, well, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for your time, and we'll hop off here and we'll send the recording out to some folks that are excited to hear more about this. Thank you, Jamie. You're awesome. You run a great team. You don't give yourself enough credit. You've built an amazing culture. And again, you've built a team that really does thrive. So congratulations, guys. And I'll talk to you later.
Thanks,
Jerry.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.